And hello, John and Ginny
Hey,
and
Lori.
Anna. Hello, everybody. Melanie, nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us. Um, just kind of waiting for more people to join. We were talking about the idea that the uh, the background here behind me, you may notice is different from what it usually is, and that's because we're at our cabin here in Wisconsin, which really offers me the opportunity to open up and receive frequencies and um, connect with information that I'm not always able to connect with at our home in Illinois. I mean, I do connect with a lot of information that is relevant, but the things that have been coming through here in this last couple of weeks that since we've been here are literally of cosmic nature. I just the other day said to my husband, all of a sudden I got this huge download and I said, Slav, I now know what the holographic universe means. It was just all of a sudden appeared clear as day because my mind for years has been trying to wrap itself around what does that mean that this is a holographic projection and we're not really here. But it just all of a sudden everything fell into place and it became clear what that means, um, among many other things that have been coming through. So what I've decided to do today, I really love the topic that I had intended to present and will be talking about. But I think that what wants to come through, we're going to talk about that first because there's information that very strongly wants to be shared, wants to be talked about today. And I can see how it converges and merges with um, the topic that I had initially brought to surface for us to talk about. Um, So, first of all, I'd like to say hi to everybody and welcome. And I'm so glad that you're here. And I want you to know how important it is that you're all here because, as I say, and as you know, everything is energy. And that means that we're pure light energy. If we just let that sink in, that truth, imagine yourself down to the nth degree of every soul, of every cell, every molecule that your physical body is made up of. As most or all of you have heard said, is that within a cell, there's what is it within our in with within actually within the universe, there's enough physical matter to fill a teaspoon. The rest of it's energy, pure energy. So that means we are pure energy that has slowed itself to the point of becoming dense so we appear physical. But in reality, as they say, if you were to put your hand underneath the right kind of a microscope, you would see nothing. Your hand wouldn't exist because it would just be seeing energy. And why that's important is because if we imagine all of us here together, each bringing our own unique frequencies, the light beings that we are. And as we now come together, we can imagine what it means when it said or talked about the idea of oneness. We are all one, as they say. But what does that mean? It means that if we take out the idea of matter, which is humans, what we see here in this third density planet, we're seeing matter for the purpose of experiencing this life on this planet. But if we take out the idea of matter and recognize that we're all energy, like a big cosmic soup, and we've all come together in this idea of this webinar, we bring our own frequencies and add it together in oneness. And that's so important to me when I do these calls, because I can sense each and every one of you. I know exactly what your frequency is. I know exactly what gifts and brilliance you bring. I know exactly the light and the love that you're contributing to the oneness of this gathering. And I'd like you to take a moment just to close your eyes. Feel your heart. Allow your conscious attention to drop down to your heart center. And feel it expand out to share the love that you are, the light that you are in your unique frequency with the oneness of the group that we have created here. Allow yourself to receive the love and the light from each other. As you receive, give gratitude. And I promise you that we are creating our own pillar of light that is expanding out into the greater cosmos and being recognized by the higher frequency, the higher dimensional beings of love that are always there watching us, watching out for us. They're celebrating us. They're celebrating us big time. And they admire our courage and our strength and our commitment to come together in gatherings like this. So give gratitude for the guidance, your higher self, your creator, your guides, angels, archangels, elemental beings. They truly are watching, and they truly are cheering for us and celebrating, during this auspicious time of our planet's evolution. And that's what wants to be talked about today. This time of our planet's evolution. So if you would kindly send each other gratitude and joy for being here to share with each other. And take a breath and come on back. Open your eyes when you're ready. And know that you are so loved. And this pillar of light that we've created together is going to be really exciting as we move into this conversation. So again, thank you for being here. What I had initially put out about 10 days ago was a conversation that I thought was important. And it's about transcending what limits us. And the reason that I thought it was important is because I've been working with individuals since 2003, 20 years. And without fail, over the last 20 years, everyone, which makes sense, why would you go hire a coach if you don't feel like there's more for you to achieve that you haven't been able to achieve on your own? So it makes perfect sense. But the idea that everyone says, it feels like there's more that I should be doing. But I either am not sure, I'm not clear about what that exactly that is, or I know what it is that what I want to do, but for some reason I feel like I've done everything I know how to do. I've worked hard to get there, but it feels like there's something keeping me stuck. How many, if you would kindly just in a show of hands, how many have felt like there's something more, something bigger that you're supposed to be doing or want to be doing, or something calling you forward? And sometimes yes, thank you. Yes, it's what I have come to know over this last 20 years on my own journey and with working with other people is that our human self tends to have one thought, one idea of what we think we're supposed to be doing. And we work really hard. We get the training, the education, we get the job. And yet at the same time, there seems to be this other calling that is beyond our reach. For me, it was like there was this curtain, and it was just behind the curtain. There was something there that I was supposed to be doing, but I couldn't reach it. And for years, it was the most frustrating thing because I tried everything I knew. I just couldn't reach beyond that curtain. And what I discovered, well, I started off on the path of self-discovery, and I was led to start to do work with healing our emotional wounding that we all have. I have not met one single person that doesn't have emotional wounding. And if you read some of my posts, it can be as simple as a look from mama when you're 3 years old and you're running into the house screaming, "Mommy, mommy, I just met a new friend, and he or she let me shared with me their toy and played with me, and I'm so excited." And mommy gives you this look. "Shh, mommy's got a headache. Be quiet. I can't deal with this right now." And mommy doesn't mean to hurt you, and she doesn't even realize that that could literally set the trajectory of your life. Because as a 3-year-old, you have no idea that mommy really just had a headache and it had nothing to do with you. The 3-year-old's mind says, "I did something wrong." when I was happy, when I was excited, that was wrong. I'm upset mommy. And so, what the 3-year-old's unconscious mind does is it creates a rule that says it's not safe to be happy. It's not safe to be excited because you upset mommy, or you will upset somebody when you're happy or excited. And I have heard this story, it comes in different forms, but different things that really happen. And we don't even remember it until we're doing a session, and all of a sudden I say something, and the client says, I remember a time when such and such happened. And I remember thinking, it's not okay to be me. But I've heard over and over the story that it's not okay to be happy. I've heard people say, I'm happy, but I can't reach a certain level of joy in my life. I can't seem to reach beyond that. And they don't even understand why, that it was a result of something that happened usually between the time that you were even actually in the womb. Now they're showing is that we are actually taking things in from the time that you're in the womb. But up until the time that you're 7, our mind is literally just a receptacle of it's in a state of theta, which is the same as hypnosis. And so anything that we take in, we believe. And then at 7, the conscious part of our mind forms, the frontal lobe, and that kind of locks everything in there, and that becomes who we are. And John, I think you know this this quote. I think we've talked about this quote. So if you can help me, if you remember it, but I think it's the Tibetans that say, give me a child until the age of 7 and I will show you the man. Do you recall that at all, John? I'm not hearing you. You're on mute. You can't unmute. Sign language. But am I saying it kind of, I'm doing it wrong? Okay. Give me a child, and I think it's the Tibetans. Give me a child until the age of 7 and I will show you the man. And what that means is that anything that that child believes to be true about itself until the age of 7 will be exactly what it believes to be true about itself for the rest of its life. And so if it had experienced an event that caused, oh, I have to unmute you. I don't know how to, oh, I'm so sorry. Do I know how to do that on this computer? Ah, can you help me, Slav?
Do you have their photos? There should be this button.
What that means is, let me see. Well, I know some people are unmuted. Yes, to unmute.
You can unmute now.
Okay, there you go.
There
Thank
we go.
you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Thank you, Melanie.
You're welcome.
John, you probably can tell what that better than I can.
No, I mean, I don't exactly remember the specifics of that quote, but that's the gist of it. It's, everything you were saying previous up to that, and that's an encompassment of that quote from from the Tibetans. So yeah, you got that. You got that right. So
all right, good. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, cool. What that means is exactly what I said is everything until you're the age of 7 literally goes in, and you believe that to be true about yourself. And so if you have even the slightest, what to us as adults now, it doesn't make any sense just because mommy was upset with me when I was so happy. It doesn't make sense that that would keep me from experiencing joy the rest of my life. To us as adults, it makes no sense. But to that child's mind, it creates an emotional wound. And that emotional wound carries a rule, literally a rule, that will drive the rest of our life, unbeknownst to us. So the reason I'm telling that is because that was really in my journey of self-discovery and trying to find what this was that was pulling me forward, and I couldn't see it. I couldn't know what it was. The first thing I had to do, but I didn't know this, I was being guided the whole time by my guides through everything. As I look back on my life now, everything makes sense. And I promise you, when I do soul contract readings and we look at everything that happened to us, it's like, oh, it all makes sense. But I didn't know I was being guided. But the first thing I did was to start to work on healing these subconscious wounds. And I became, well, because I got certified in it, and in our certifications, we work on each other, and then we meet every year for a conference and we work on each other. So I have been worked on to the point where I'm extremely clean. I literally am an empty vessel. I can go completely hours or days without thinking. I don't have emotional reactions or responses. I don't have judgment. And that's not to say I didn't used to. I was probably one of the most judgmental people in the world, just because that's the environment I was raised in. But I recognize now that judgment really means nothing. Nothing means anything. So the reason I share that is to say that that is what freed me. I didn't know it at the time that that was the first step in freeing me, to be able to then draw in the path, the higher spiritual path that I was meant to take. If you had asked me then, 23 years ago, or had said to me that I would be a coach or a spiritual guide, I would have thought that was the craziest thing ever, ever. It never would have crossed my mind. But that's what was behind that curtain. That's what was behind that veil, waiting for me and calling me. So if you are feeling that there's something else that you are supposed to or yearning to do, but you're not sure yet what that is, then I promise you, it's your soul's calling, saying you are here at this time. And I know that I know this, or you wouldn't be on this call with me, because anyone who kind of comes into my space of reality or my space of awareness, everyone who comes into my space of awareness is here at this time to assist in the transformation that this planet is now going through. How does that feel when I say that? How does that land? And I know many of you know that, but when we hear it out loud in this group of our soulmates, counterparts, partners in this evolution, soul tribe, how does it feel to be recognized as one who is here to assist in the pioneering in the evolution of this planet? Who will share with us how that feels? Jennifer? Let me see if
You might have to unmute her.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how. I honestly thought that I unmuted everybody. Slav, can you help me? I really. How did that happen for you, John? How did we unmute?
It happened. I don't know. I don't know if Slav came over and did anything, but it just unmuted on its own.
He's magical. He's magical. I promise you.
All right, you should be able to hear me now.
I
There we
can
go.
hear you now. Yay. Jennifer, you are here to do huge, huge energetic work, and you are, and you have been. And I talked a little bit about this land that we're on up here in our cabin up in Wisconsin. And you know what Jennifer has been doing? There's been great trauma on this land, and we've been here for 8 years. And we've brilliantly and lovingly coexisted with the trauma on this land. But it makes itself very known and very present. It's significant. And Jennifer has been doing land clearing work, and so she offered to work on this land. And I tell you, this last couple of weeks, the energy is so much different, so much more mellow. They're still here, and that's fine. But there's such a different energy to the energies that have been here and dominated this land for years. So Jennifer is here for big reasons. So Jennifer, the question I asked is, how does it land? How does it feel being in this group and being recognized when I say you are here to pioneer the evolution of this planet at this time? What does that mean to you?
You know, it feels good, but it's like a little bit overwhelming, you know, and then some self-doubt comes in inevitably too, you know, like, really, is this what I'm here for? But you know, there's other groups that I belong to, and, you know, we're all here to help transcend the new earth and cross over and just raise the vibration and bring in the love. And you know, it just feels so wonderful. It really does. And like, it just, I'm happy to help. I mean, you know, that's what I'm here for. You know, I'm happy to help, and, you know, and help other people on their journey. And you know, not only do I do land clearings, but I work with people too and help clear their traumas and that. And so it's been, you know, it's been rewarding, but it's tough too. It's like the people have to do the work as well. Like, if they're not going to step up and do the work, then, you know, it's tougher and it's a harder road. But it's good.
Yes, thank you. Yes, it can seem overwhelming to think that, because it is a big job. But here's the thing. It can mean something as simple as offering a loving smile to a stranger.
Mhm.
Being the one to carry the light. Being the one to believe in humanity, humanity's goodness, humanity's greatness. So it doesn't have to mean that we're doing, you know, land clearing. I don't do land clearing. You know, I stick with humans. You know, helping clear humans. You know, see the magnificent and transcend what blocks them. But you know, we all come with different gifts. Ginny, you and I did a soul contract reading, and I honestly don't believe. I mean, I don't remember what your very special and unique gift is. I do so many. I'm trying to remember it, but I do remember that it was very clear, very clear. Do you have anything to share or say about that?
I think maybe the thing that you are talking about is it very specific of bringing generations together, specifically like elderly with the young, and I mostly was thinking of women. um, uh, Homebound and elderly women, and but other people who may need more and still have a lot to give, and it's still boggling to me in the way that we've constructed things for the elderly, kind of warehousing them, how that would work. But I think I was thinking of starting a little bit small, and there's a university real close to me here, a small university, and they're kind of, I don't know, dismantling or changing or something. And another person was saying to me, "Oh, I remember when this other university did this, and they offered their rooms to, people of different generations, and they made this whole multi-generational thing." And I thought, well, maybe I should check that out, because maybe there's a small thing that I could, try.
Yeah. Yes,
See.
thank you. Thank you. Yes, I clearly remember now what it was. And it was the idea that the older generations have so much yet to give, and the younger generations have so much to share, and how cross-generationally we can really support each other. And so as you can see, all of us have that thing that's behind the veil or behind the curtain. Or as one client put it, she said, I've always known that there was something out there. It was like a star way up in the sky. And she said, I just couldn't reach it, but I always knew it was there. So for each of us, it's going to be a different experience, or a different visual, or a different feeling. But I think all of us, in terms of everybody raising their hands, has this inner call saying you're here for something more. And at this time, we as a planetary system have been going through, as prophesied, this experience of evolution, expansion into higher densities. And so we as people are also going with the planetary system into higher densities. And that was created over the last thousands of years in the lower densities, is deconstructing, falling apart, because it can't exist in the higher densities. A good reference for that, and I've talked about this before, but I'm not going to go into it, but a good reference for that information is called 9 Waves of Creation by Carl Callahan. Carl Callahan wrote a book called The 9 Waves of Creation, and it talks about the evolution of our planet. And he talks about that we are now in the 9th wave. The 8th wave is the onset of awakening, which is what those of us on this call have been experiencing. This idea of waking up to the idea that there's something more, the idea that the way that we've done things don't really seem to work, or don't really seem to fit. Things need to change. We need to change the way that we're treating the planet. We need to change the way that we're treating each other. And Carl Callahan has laid it out, the 9 waves of creation, and the first wave and what that meant. It was really literally the creation of the planet, and the first molecules of virus, and then the second wave came in and how those molecules of virus became amoebas, and then the third wave of how that became animals, and the fourth, so all the way up until the eighth wave, which really came, which is a frequency, the eighth wave, all of the waves, but the eighth wave came in and brought in this higher frequency into our planet, which started this grand awakening. And that was approximately 1987, along with, or 1960s, the kind of the hippies started going, wait a minute, something's not right here. We're going to go all about love and light in the 70s. And then in the 80s, 1987, the harmonic convergence was really the big thing that set off and invited in this higher frequencies. And then the ninth wave came in at approximately 2011. And we are in the ninth wave right now, and meaning that we are set for planetary awakening. Those of you who are on this call have been unconsciously, for the most part, to yourselves, brought here because it's time for us to come together and work together on this planetary awakening. And each of us brings our own unique gifts and skills and strengths and frequency to this job. Yes, that's all that really wanted to be said. They're like, we're done. I'm like, okay, so what's the ending? So what does that mean? Who's willing to share what that means to you? John?
Always happy to share, Larry. So is this a separate question than the question that you just asked a few
I
minutes
don't
ago?
know.
Or is
Just
that
answer whatever. I honestly, because I was reading energy, don't even know what I did ask. So that's the truth.
well, I'll speak what came to mind a few moments ago. And it reminds me of like one of my favorite quotes from that Law of One series that you know about too. And it's that the purpose that we're all discovering, for ourselves around helping the planet and helping each other. To me, it's a two-sided coin of honor and responsibility. So it's a deep honor to have this, be given this purpose, or to give ourselves this purpose from a soul aspect and from an essence aspect to be here at this time. But that honor is, held together with the idea that we're responsible to honor our purpose. And so it's it's the highest honor and it's the highest responsibility that we have to embody and wield and recognize for ourselves, because this is some super important shit. And I love the quick little meditation that we did, but yeah, that quote just kind of came to mind, and that's what I was thinking about the last few moments.
Awesome. Yes, you're absolutely spot on. It is an honor and a responsibility. And at the same time, know this, and I know you know this, John, but know this for anyone who doesn't recognize that we chose this when we came in. We knew when we came here into this physical form exactly what we came here to do. And then, of course, as is, we go through the veil of forgetfulness and we start all over and we think we're just here to, be part of the gang. But then all of a sudden we start to feel this calling forward. And so, yes, thank you, John. Both of those are true. It is an honor and a responsibility. Some will choose to honor that responsibility and do the work to move forward into the purpose that we came here for. And others will not in this lifetime, and that's okay too. We don't make that wrong, because we come here on this is a planet of free will. So although our souls have intention when they come in and desires for certain experiences, the human, and the soul knows this very well, the human has free will on this planet to be able to say, nope, that doesn't sound like much fun. I've got other things to do. So it's not wrong to not, choose that path. But what I will say is that the people that I've worked with, and including myself, is that if many of us, if we don't choose to step up into that, that will continue to experience a stronger and stronger sense of dissatisfaction in our life. And that, what I've discovered in working with so many people, is really there to be a catalyst. That dissatisfaction is a catalyst to go find what it is that you're here to do, to recognize that it's not going to be comfortable to continue to ignore that responsibility. Does that make sense? Dana, are you willing to share some of your thoughts or insights on this conversation? Let me see if I have to do something here. There we go.
Yeah, you did it, whatever
Yeah.
you did.
See, I'm getting magical too.
Yes. Well, I'm still kind of processing everything, but when I had my soul contract reading, it was spot on. It was like, here's my life it fit. And it's still there's still that I do know where I'm headed, but how am I going to get there kind of thing that goes on in my head. But I have been progressing in that direction all my life, really. But it's just much more clearer. And I do see, I have been, and I do see continuing kind of being a facilitator for other people tapping into their own inner knowing. That's really what it is. Because we all have it. It's just how disconnected or how far is the memory. And so really helping connect to that memory. And I think sometimes because of what you talked about, early experiences as a child, I sometimes invalidate what I'm already doing. And so that was very validating to realize I am doing, even though I don't maybe always feel as though I'm making a difference or as though I'm really assisting. It was confirming that I'm on the right track. I've been on the right track, and I need to get out of my own way more than anything.
Yes, thank you. Yes. And that's so true, is that we feel this call. We know that we're here for something bigger, maybe not sure what it is. And then our human mind invalidates that, because for me, as I became more and more aware of what I actually do for people, and Dana and I have very similar soul contracts. We actually have the same soul destiny. So I understand so well what she talks about is our soul destiny, but we'll approach it in different ways. Is that we are able to see in others what they haven't yet been able to see in themselves, and then to be able to reflect that back to them. And so, as you said, Dan, I think you've been doing that your whole life, but without putting probably a definition to it. Would that be true?
Yes, I think, yes.
Yeah. Yes.
I
So
think that would be.
yeah. So everyone here on this on this call or everyone watching it afterwards, recognizing what is it that you've just always done. I mean, I remember being on the playground in third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade and seeing things so clearly, yet so differently from what everybody else seemed to be seeing in a person or in a situation. But who was I to speak up? Especially when nobody else saw it the way that I saw it. So, of course, I've spent my whole life invalidating that, invalidating myself, when actually it is my gift to be able to do that. And so, for those of you here on this call who may have not yet been able to put languaging or definition around your gift that you bring here, what we tend to do as humans is we look around us for validation. But nobody's going to be able to validate that for us. Nobody else is going to be able to define that for you. Now, as Dana and I are talking about, we both discovered that through our own, journeys. And, for Dana specifically in the soul contract reading, when I had my soul contract reading, it confirmed what I'd been doing already for 20 years. I already knew that because it's what I've been doing. But if you haven't yet been able to put definition to it, I ask you, rather than looking outside of yourself for someone else to recognize it in you, someone else to validate it in you, because they will not that they don't want to, they can't. But what have you always done for as long as you can remember that has seemed unique to you, that maybe not seemed validated because no one else seems to do it or understand it, but it's simply just what you do? And I call that your unique brilliance. We often don't think that we don't think it's unique because we just do it. It's like, well, doesn't everybody do that? I know when I recognize that I get information, I just get bundles of information that that makes sense to me. And doesn't everybody just get these thoughts, these ideas? And I've come to learn that no. So it can be unique, but we also don't think it's brilliant because it's easy for us. It's just what I've always done, right? So we do tend to invalidate it. Thank you, Dana. That was a really good point. And at this time, what I started to say, we are in the 9th wave. That means there's no more time. That means that those of us who came here to pioneer this evolution, I'm getting information that some people may not necessarily know exactly what that is, this evolution. So it's kind of interrupting me. And that's okay, because I'll go into that in a second, I think. But start to take yourself seriously. Start to give yourself credit for that you do bring. Start to recognize your unique brilliance. And please stop being afraid to share yourself. That's the biggest hurdle. I promise you that's the biggest hurdle it was for me. And it is for every other client that I've worked with who are here to be up to big things. Our biggest fears that will be thought as weird, especially by our family or our friends closest to us. All of a sudden we come out and we start saying, I transform lives by awakening consciousness. It's like, well, that's weird. But so I kind of did it on the sly. So I do it with my coaching clients is, to help them raise their consciousness, but not literally come out and say, this is what we're doing, but basically taking them through an awakening or a self-awareness process without really calling it consciousness work. I had to get over it myself, knowing that my family was not going to understand and was definitely and does, going to reject that that's even a truth because they don't see me that way. And I promise you that every client that I've worked with who is on their path to bigger things goes through this fear of being rejected or judged by the tribe. So if you're experiencing that, you're not alone. It's a valid fear. But what if it were true that you chose as a soul before you came into this incarnation to come here at this time to assist in this evolutionary process that our planet and our whole solar system is going through? All that means is that the denser frequencies are falling away because there's so much more higher frequency coming into the planet, literally devoiding or pushing out or dissolving the lower frequencies. That's all it means. But at the same time, what it means for us as humans is big because we will start to awaken consciously, raise our consciousness, start to see things differently. And what that means is our ego selves will start to fall away. We will become more heart, more soul, more love, more compassionate, more oneness, less egocentric, less individual centric, less competition and control. That's what it means. I forgot what was coming in before. Does anyone have any thoughts or comments that you would like to share at this time? Judy, hello, Judy. Unmute you. I love your sign language. Thank you. Did that work? There you go.
I believe it did. I did put a question in the chat, but I wanted to make another comment based on what you just said. Ginny and I went to high school together, but we didn't go to grammar school together. And she's probably never heard this before, but so I don't know, I was maybe 8 or 9. I'm really not sure, but it was during class and, I'm pretty much a goody two shoes. So, I didn't get in trouble. I was a good girl, listened. And it was probably Catholic, and we were talking about the Bible or something and some kind of passage that was probably really pretty interesting. And it just kind of was overwhelming, like what we think about, with the universe and the cosmos. And so I just came out and said, what is the meaning of life? And I was told to get up, go down to the principal's office. And, and I really shouldn't be asking that kind of a question. And so maybe as what you said, which is quite interesting about, age 7 and so forth, maybe at that point I was the person who I was meant to be then, because I still ask those questions and now I attempt to kind of answer them at some points. But it's something that I know we're on, high frequency, but it just kind of bothered me today and wondered if, you had an insight into that. I live up just outside of Denver, and in basketball, the Denver Nuggets, for the first time in their history, won the NBA title last night. So people were, celebrating in the streets downtown. And some of the people were coming out of bars, and someone just started shooting. And the story is still kind of evolving. But when my cousin and I shared some information over texting, I said something like, you know, life is a bit different now, but is it really just the same? And I'm just wondering, with these types of situations, I mean, there are all kinds of reasons, and how do you stop the madness? And what creates, you know, sometimes a platform for these lower densities to work that out. But instead of, you know, the thought of a one-on-one, or even in certain groups, and like what we share here, how do you reconcile that energy kind of into the collective for the greater good?
That is a really good question. And it's one I'm sure we all have or will have when we talk about this idea of raising consciousness and how do we reconcile things like that. For myself, you know, when I didn't understand it from a higher consciousness perspective, it was, you know, how do we reconcile, you know, sick children, deaths, bad things that happen. And it's probably longer than we have time here for right now. I recognize that it's 7:30 and that we've been on for an hour, so I recognize that some may have to go. And if you do have to leave now, I appreciate you being here so much. I hope that you'll come back for more conversations. But to this point, Judy, it took me a lot of work and raising consciousness to the point where, so that I could understand it from the higher perspective. And there's a lot of different ways to answer it. One way that comes to mind that's easiest to respond to that is the idea that each soul does choose its experience before it comes in. And that from a soul perspective, the shooter and the ones and the victims of that shooting, from the soul's perspective, are not surprised that that happened and literally chose to experience that for the soul's reason. And I know to our human mind that makes no sense whatsoever, but I promise you, when we do the work of raising our consciousness, we get to a point when we go, oh, I get it. I get it. From the soul's perspective, its only desire, the soul's perpetuating desire, is to work its way back to oneness with the source. Our souls, every single one of us is a soul, an individuated soul from source, oneness. I picture it like this, that source is a big cloud in the sky, and it's all that there is. And at one point, it decided to break off into little clouds, individual clouds, and that's us. Our souls are individuated clouds from the one source cloud. And as these individuated clouds, we decide that we want to go off and have experiences and learn. But we also recognize the one important thing: we are now individuated from source. It's actually our greatest wound, is the wound of abandonment. We're alone. We feel abandoned. And so our greatest desire is to work our way back to becoming whole into oneness with source. And our souls choose to have these experiences, to learn from them, to grow and to raise its consciousness, to raise its awareness, so that it can become whole again and return back to source. I think you would know this, Judy, I will not, but I'm going to say, because I'm not Catholic, I'm going to say that I think that may be what the term our first and original sin. Sin, I do know the definition is to miss the mark. And so if the mark is God, our return to source, our return to wholeness, and if as individuated aspects of source we're missing the mark, I believe it makes sense to me that that's what original sin means. I could be wrong, but it makes sense. But anyway, to answer your question, if we think about everything, and I know this from working with people for 20 years and hearing stories, and as we start to work back and unwind their stories of why we feel like I'm a victim of this, or why did this happen, or why does that happen, and we work our way back, there's always a reason that makes sense of why this happened to me. So sometimes a soul will choose to experience physicality for only a short period of time, just to taste it. But from a human perspective, we might have lost a child, and it's devastating, and it doesn't make sense to us. But also the adults, let's say the mother or the father, the grandparents, the aunts and uncles that would have been part of that child's life, it's devastating to them, but there's also a good chance that from a soul's perspective, that soul actually wanted to experience deep loss. And again, from a human perspective, that doesn't make any sense. But when we go to the soul's perspective and it wants to experience the depth of that emotion that it can experience as a soul, because from a soul's perspective, there's no duality. There is no pain. So it may very well have wanted to experience the depth of that emotion. And so together, the little tiny soul that just wanted a taste of life, of physicality, and the adult soul that wanted to experience the devastating loss chose to come here together, go through the veil of forgetfulness, have these experiences for the evolution of the soul back into oneness. Does that make sense?
Thank you. And I really liked your explanation of sin. I agree with you on that. And I just read something somewhere today that illustrated that same point that you were making. So thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for your question, Judy. I appreciate it. Is there anyone else that would like to share a comment or has a question that you'd like to bring forward? I think me trying to, I promised to give you a tool. Okay, let me give you a quick tool that I just did with a client this morning to recognize, am I on my path? Am I blocking myself? As Dana said so beautifully, I have to get out of my own way. So beautifully. And we all know what that means, don't we? We all know what that means. But I have a client who has continued to bring forward a dream that shows up in different forms, but at the same time, it's a dream of becoming free from all of the trappings of the successful life that she's created for herself. It comes with status, it comes with money, it comes with the idea that everyone perceives that she's been successful, and she has on the physical perspective. But yet over time, she's brought different kind of that seemingly to her, random thoughts about, I just want to move to the mountains, and get a tiny house in the mountains, and just have people come to me, and I would coach them, or I just want to move off into a tiny house where I only have 2 knives and 2 forks and a garden, or just it always is the same theme. And she, of course, doesn't recognize it, but I, in listening to her in all of the sessions and her bringing forward, I wish I could just do this, but I have to create this new program, or do this thing that I have to do to maintain this physical life that I've created for myself. Finally, recently in a session, she was able to recognize that she was really choosing the ego's desire for status, for recognition, for approval, over her soul's desire to become all that is possible for her to become. And so many of us do that unknowingly. We might feel the soul's call in a vision that it gives us, and we think, oh, that's just a silly pipe dream of mine. Who am I to do that? Was my thing. Who am I to do that? Who am I to do that? That's for those people, but that's not for somebody like me. But I want to give you a simple tool. When some of your dreams come up that you tend to discard or disregard or push off as just a pipe dream, and it really involves just putting out 2 hands in front of you and put the idea of what I should do, what I should do. I should do this. I need to do this. I ought to do this. Well, people tell me I should do this. Well, this is what's expected of me. All of these things that I should do or I need to do. Put that into one hand, whichever hand you want. Put the idea, the picture, the feeling of it, all of it. Just kind of wrap it up in a beautiful clear bubble and place that in one hand. And then take your pipe dream, your silly little vision, and the idea of that and how that feels. And put that picture into another hand, into your other hand. And if you want to do that right now, think of something that you have been thinking that you should do, that you need to do, or just a life that you're living that makes sense, that you've created, and kind of put that into one of your hands. And then put this thought that's come up for as long as you can remember, really, that you've kind of set aside, pushed aside. It might come to you in visions, or a thought, or an idea, or a heart's desire, a yearning. Put that into your other hand. And now, just from a subconscious level, as you're looking at both, imagining that you're looking at both hands, which one looks lighter? Which one looks darker? Which one feels heavier? Which one feels lighter? Which one, if you imagine yourself going down that path, feels more bumpy, more full of potholes, more challenging to get down? Which one feels more joyful, even if it requires a lot of work, but the work feels joyful and light-hearted? And which one feels like it's something you want to move toward? And which one feels like, I don't really want to move that way. I really don't want to go toward that. I'd rather move away from it. And then ask yourself, are you allowing yourself to honor your soul's calling? Are you making your physical reality, which of course we live in this physical reality. We have to have money. We have to make money. We have to, fair trade and all of those things. But are you denying yourself the opportunity to recognize and step into your true heart's calling? Did that make sense? Does anyone have any final thoughts or questions that you'd like to share before we leave? Deanne, would you like to share? I love your all sign language.
Yes, that made complete sense. I feel that through, it's been a while since you've coached me, but what you have taught me is life changing. And I feel like from reading, especially to Don Miguel Ruiz, this block that a lot of us have that we don't realize we have is like this parasite, and it blocks us from the clarity. So it could be as much as a door or a shade, but a parasite. And when he spoke about his son spoke about listening to his grandmother, are we listening? Are we really listening? Are we listening to ourselves? So it really it just is. And I feel like you're right. I was called to be here today. So I'm like, I have all these different vibes and all the energy that's coming in. And it's truly true. We are all our own roadblocks. We have to cleanse ourselves. We have to cleanse our soul, our mind, in order to really be this ray of light in this beam, which I feel that we are. I know I am, and there's times it's blocked. It's blocked because I haven't changed my thinking. It's old thinking that keeps interfering. And that's what interferes in a lot of people. That's what stops all this energy, because you're there, but it's being stifled or muffled, or it's blocked. But it's us taking the time to dig deep and let the energy out. Let that energy out. And this was like really this, especially your ending with putting it in each hand. That was really gave me a strong visualization. And it's, again, it's taking the time every day to work on this, which is what we get caught up in our own routine. It's changing the routine, changing the old thinking process, because it is there. It's just digging deep and letting it out, letting the energy out, letting all that out. Does that make any sense?
It makes perfect sense. Thank you, Deanne. Perfect sense. And yes, you are such a light. Oh my goodness, such a light. Such a light.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you so much for that. And I want to say, to some of the points that you made just in closing here, please trust yourselves. Please honor that vision that you've had repeatedly for as long as you can remember. Know that it is our souls. Here's the thing. Our souls don't speak English. They don't speak at all. Our souls speak to us in sending us a visual, or in sending us a thought. And then we think, ooh, that was a weird thought. Where'd that come from? Well, it was kind of a good thought. It kind of felt interesting, but who am I to do that? Besides that, I don't have time. And it doesn't make any sense for me to move to the mountains. So we set it aside. And then we pretend, we tell people, I don't hear my higher self speaking to me. Well, I did, but set it aside. So
It's true.
trust, allow yourself to trust that your soul is always calling you to the direction, to the path that is possible for you. I promise you, after working with so many people over the last 20 years and being able to, like Dana, see in you or in clients, literally see for you what you have not yet seen for yourself. I promise you that you are so much more than you have been led to believe or than you have allowed yourself to believe. So I ask you to trust yourself when those thoughts, those visions, those feelings come up. Take the time, like Deanne said, take the time to stop what you're doing and to recognize that is your soul. That is your soul trying to show you the path. And I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. I promise you too that it's all of our energy that comes together that brings through what wants to be said and shared. So I appreciate all of you being here. I know a lot of you had sent messages. We didn't do one of these in May. I was doing these for the last few months, a couple times a month, and May was an introspective month. Did you find that? It was like a lot happened in May, and at the same time, it was like, yeah, but it doesn't really want to be talked about. It just is for each of our personal experience. And so I just sat and I allowed May to be what it was. And there was a lot of growth opportunity, I know, for all of us, if we recognized. Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Dana. Thank you. Thank you, Dana and Dana. Thank you. And Deanne and all the D's that are here. I love that. But yeah, think about May, because I know I said this a few times, but I promise you too, what I know about May is I kept checking into it. And it's like, is it time to do a call? Is it time to do a call? And it really just wanted to be noticed. May just really wanted to be noticed, what was coming up. So June is much more active, the energy. So we'll probably do another one of these calls in June. Watch the Facebook. I will make sure you know. But yeah, it was just a different kind of energy. So I appreciate your patience, allowing me the space and taking the space for yourselves. And I appreciate you being here tonight. And I hope that you will come back.